Hey, it's TDA, and today we're playing some more Mindustry, and this time around we're going to a karst. Now, I was actually wondering when I saw the name of this level, considering every single other level has some sort of geography type of name, with the exception maybe of Siege, I was wondering, what the hell is a karst? So, I looked it up for you. A karst is a type of landscape where the dissolving of the bedrock has created sinkholes, sinking streams, caves, springs, and other characteristic features. I'm not sure what to do with that information, but I figured you might find it interesting as well. Now, we have a extreme, I should say, threat level over here. But the good news is the sector is rich in resources, but will be attacked by the enemy once a new core lands. Take advantage of the resources and research phase fabric. Now, speaking of research, as some of you pointed out, I completely forgot to check the technology tree in the last level. It wasn't needed, it was easy enough to do it with all the technology I had already unlocked, but apparently I actually got some new tier 4 units. The air version and the crawler version, I guess, of the tier 1, 2, and 3 units we already had. We already had the tier 4 Vanquish that you saw a couple of levels ago, but yeah, I got some new ones on top of that. And in addition, there is also a new type of core, the Acropolis, which is an even larger version of the base that I can build to upgrade everything I'm doing even further. Speaking of which, some people in the comments mentioned that if you upgrade your core, you actually get a better build rate and things like that for your own unit as well, the main unit you use to do pretty much everything in the game. Now, if that is true, I actually don't know how you're supposed to know this, because as you can see, the description here just tells me that you can store more resources. You can definitely tell that you can build more units if you have more of these things, and you get, yeah, as you can see, you also get an increase to the maximum amount of units, but this doesn't say anything about build speed or anything of the like. So now I'm actually wondering if is that just on the other planet maybe, people are being confused, or is that actually a part of Eric here as well? Let me know in the comments. But anyway, here we go up to the new section of our map. Now, just from the start, I'm really liking the layout, so let's pause here. We have the first wave. We actually only have 10 waves. That sounds like not that much, but I don't know, maybe that's a reason I should be worried. But they weren't kidding when they said this zone is rich in resources. Look at all this stuff. We have a lot of slag, we have a lot of arcosite, so that at least means power will not be an issue. Heat will not be an issue. We have, what do we have over here? Tungsten. We can set some of those ore miners up here, so that is going to be awesome. I don't see any thorium just yet. And let's see, what else do we have? We do have a tiny bit of tungsten production up here already, although, oh, it's actually 3.6 per second. That's not a tiny bit, that's a decent amount. Yeah, we do have some beryllium, not that much, honestly, and the layout of how this is set up is awesome, or awful, I should say. Probably going to have to redo this, because I definitely want this boosted. And what do we have over here? Just graphite, more graphite. Yeah, okay, so, okay, I'm going to do a tiny bit of exploring. Someone challenged me in the comments to do this level without exploring. I like playing optimal, and I'm not sure not exploring is optimal, but I'll give it to you. It might be fun to do it with at least less exploring than just like uncovering the entire map. But I do want to briefly scout out just outside of my radius here, just to see if I can find some more of those basic resources like thorium, so at least I know in which direction I'm going to be expanding. Okay, so I've done a little bit of exploring. We have some more tungsten over here. I'm not entirely sure if this area is closed off, but I think it will be. Yeah, some more resources over here, nothing too special, honestly. The same holds for this side, although we do seem to have a natural choke point over here. So setting up a defensive line here could be a good idea, maybe. Not entirely sure what's going on over here. There's a very large open area, so this might be nice for some unit production, assuming I can actually get the units across this arcoside. But if not, maybe this could be a power hub? Could be, I don't know. If we look at the map, there's two spawn points. So we have all the enemies apparently coming from the south, well, at least south and kind of like southeast. I assume, and this might be completely wrong, that this spawn over here will just have enemies moving straight up, and this will be coming through that choke point we saw earlier. Now, will there be air units in here? Probably. And in that case, they will likely just charge like diagonally into my base from over here. So I might need to have some air defense set up here as well. Now, what are we going to do with all of this information? Not entirely sure. We don't have any afflict production available just yet because we would need to set up slag for that. We also barely have any power over here. As you can see, I actually built a couple of turbine condensers while I was exploring, but you barely start out with any power whatsoever, so we're going to need to fix a lot of power. Other than that, we have, like the game already told us, a lot of resources. This is an extremely rich map. I haven't found any thorium yet. It's probably here somewhere on the map, but that's the thing, if you don't explore, but you don't know. So I'm probably going to have to build some units to do some exploring with that, and then figure it out as we go along. I do want to kind of stick to the challenge of not exploring. Not sure I'm happy about it though. And then finally, before I forget, let's check technology tree. We do have the phase synthesizer over here that the intro actually told us about, which synthesizes phase fabric from thorium, sand, and ozone. That's some very interesting things to combine. But anyway, we can already unlock that, so let's go ahead and do that. Not entirely sure what I'm going to use that for. Oh wait, look at that. It's probably going to be used for... Are these already tier 5 units? I guess so. They are super expensive to unlock. And this is one of the things I think is a little bit weird about this particular game. Why would I not just go back to the previous level, get all these resources, unlock this, and then reboot the level like that? I mean, there's literally no reason for me to not do that, because if I run into the fact that I don't have a lot of, for example, carbide production up and running in the other levels just yet, I might be able to, I might not be able to build these things when I want to. Anyway, it's a weird mechanic, I'll deal with it. I just find it a little bit of a strange design. Let's get to it. Okay, so we're back at the beginning of the level, and now I need to go do some more planning. Anyway, after I actually figured out that whenever you unlock technology on a planet, it actually takes from the inventory of that planet as well, I figured, yeah, I'll just go back to the previous planet, unlock all the different new tanks, and then launch again for cars. So I've done exactly that, so we have everything unlocked that we might need in this level, with the exception actually of whatever comes after the phase synthesizer, because if we zoom in here for a moment, oh, there we go. There's actually something behind this, but we need to research phase fabric first, which I guess is what this is going to be producing, and will only unlock once you actually produce it. So there's still something to explore, but for now we are going to have to figure out what to do about our base. Okay, so step 1 is power, and I want plenty of power, so I built 4 of these pyrolysis generators, and I'm filling them with some of the archetypes from up here. We already had an existing electrolyzer, as well as a chemical combustion chamber apparently, which is supplying, well, at least most of the starting power. I'll just leave it here, but honestly all of these pyrolysis generators are far more effective. We have plenty of slag to fill them up with, so I built another pump over here. I'm fueling that from this existing electrolyzer, which is not being used completely to fuel these plasma bores, so I might as well use some of that to get one pump up and running. And if I look at my power now, yep, I am sitting at a surplus now of 6.3k, while we were actually running a deficit before. Now, next on the list, I think, is going to be fixing our beryllium as well as our silicon production, because both of those are terrible, quite honestly. We have a tiny bit of beryllium production over here, but none of this is boosted, and yeah, this is definitely not going to be cutting it. And the silicon production is getting some sand, but this is set up quite inefficiently, honestly, because this is producing about 75% of the sand that it actually needs. So yeah, we're going to have to do something about that as well. The silicon is an easy fix, so that's why I'm starting over here. Just a couple of more of these crushers over here will supply the additional sand that we need to have these working at full speed. Now, second of all, I have a lot of beryllium on the floor here, and I didn't used to make use of much of these drills anymore because they're quite power hungry, but it is the main way I think right now I have to get beryllium. There's some more over here, but this is where I want to build my choke point. I don't see anything that is quite nearby and convenient, So yeah, I'm just going to mine the hell out of this beryllium on the floor. I do have all the water I need to actually drill that because, well, the generators over here are producing 80 water in total. So that's more than enough to feed all of these drills. And other than that, I just need to power them. And this is going to cost me about 600 power, I believe. So it's quite a chunk, but we're producing 6,000 at the moment. So I don't think that will be too much of a problem. Next up on the list is a Surge Crucible or two, because I want all the Surge alloy I can get to build my favorite kind of tower, that is the Afflict. And we should have enough power to power those, so then actually being able to construct them is the main bottleneck. Now, we need silicon, lots and lots of silicon, and we need some slag. Now, I do think we had some more resource over here to the left, so let me go and double check that. What was it? This was tungsten. No, we need some graphite, but I think that was over here. We have the slag, so then we should have everything we need to get that production rolling. Okie dokie, well it seems I remembered wrong, because we have tungsten, we have more tungsten, and we have even more tungsten over here. So that's one resource we're not going to be running low on. But what I really need is graphite, because I need graphite for several things, including making silicon. So that means we are going to have to redesign this area over here to make sure it's actually productive. Okay, so I think this should do the trick. I moved all of these little drills a little bit out. I'm actually producing more than I can fit on a single belt now. So this is why we have this secondary bypass over here. So some of that graphite can go into my base for now. And I have plenty of additional sand production over here in the corner. So I now doubled up on my silicon production. We should now be producing about 20 silicon per second, which is again more than fits on one belt, but we're going to use some of that production for something else in a moment anyway. So that should be for enough for now. Now, I really need to get my slag production up and running so I can actually build those afflicts, because in about 7.5 minutes we're going to need them. I actually want to point out, we started out with one of those already, which is a really nice bonus, because it covers pretty much everything I've built so far. It's not in the best position, but it's not in the worst position either, so yeah, we can work with that. And there we go. This is a nice little and by now familiar setup to get a lot of alloy going. Now, this is only going to be producing 1.3 alloy per second, so given how much time I have, that's maybe not enough, but I do want to focus on a couple of other things too, and not just on the Surge alloy, because honestly, the only thing that's going to give me is afflicts, which are really good, but I want some sort of mobile defense. In order to do that, I'm going to need some more tungsten, and honestly, these two drills over here are not going to cut it. So adding in about 4 more of those should do the trick. Now we're producing something like 9, I believe, 1.8 times 6, so yeah, that's just about that. So I think we should have enough tungsten now as well. So that means we've covered all the basics. We have the beryllium, we have the graphite, we have the silicon, very important. We have oxide already, we have alloy, we have tungsten. So now really we only need some carbide and thorium, which I haven't found yet. The carbide we can pretty easily make. However, it's not really a high priority because we don't actually need it to build our tanks. And when I say we don't need it, that is not strictly true. We do actually need some carbide and thorium to build the buildings that make our tanks. But once those are up and running, we no longer need those resources. We don't actually have enough to make the creepy crawlies, but we do have enough to build either the ship assembler, which is the flying unit, of course, or the tank assembler, which is the heavy ground unit. Now, I really liked the tanks in the level we got them, but I kind of want to try out the air unit, and on top of that, the air unit will also make it a lot easier for me to explore the map. Okay, so maybe something like this. I need cyanogen to actually power the ship assembler. I need some tier 1 units to be produced, so this is where these 3 come in, and I need some of those tungsten walls, beryllium walls to be produced. So this is where those 2 constructors come in. I also need some heat in order to make sure we actually have enough cyanogen to produce these units optimally. So this is where these units come in, and well, that needs to come all the way from over here. All in all, my base is turning into a little bit of spaghetti. I do want to build this over here, because I can hopefully relatively easily defend this, because I do plan on making some defenses over here. And I am probably going to set the rest of my production up over here. But if I do that right now, there's a very good chance that specifically this building gets destroyed. And if that happens, I have a huge problem, because I cannot rebuild it because I won't have enough thorium. Okay, so after about half a minute of staring confused at my ship assembler why it was not completing, I realized that while building the cyanogen synthesizer, I actually used a little bit of my carbide that I needed to complete this building as well. So, yeah, time to panic, I guess. We are going to need to make some carbide to make any of this work. And I do have all the resources I need to do that. I am probably going to set up something similar like this, but whether or not that's going to be in time to actually save my base, that remains to be seen. Okay, panic update number 2. As I was waiting for my carbide to come in, I was like, well, I might as well start building some afflicts then. But in order to build afflicts, I actually need some electric power, and I need oxide for all of that. And even though I have been producing oxide from the beginning of the level, it is not quite enough for all I want to do at the moment. So yeah, I am now rapidly also building some more oxide production in the hopes that I will be able to survive. But honestly, at this point, I'm starting to feel very worried. Oh man, I was also wondering why my production of slag was so low, my alloy I should say, and that's because for some reason, and I think it happened while I was building this particular bridge over here, a single piece of graphite snuck in here and is now completely blocking half my silicon production, but most importantly it's blocking the part that feeds into my alloy. Yeah, this is starting to be a disaster. Speaking of disaster, the first wave is here. It is a total of 16 units. If I can survive this wave, I should be fine. But yeah, luckily these units don't seem to be particularly strong, and hopefully that means I can easily take them out. I'm not sure what else is to follow. Something else that is really confusing me, by the way, is why my ship assembler is not completing. I think I've run out of thorium, but I should have had enough, so I probably spent it somewhere. I just don't have any idea what on, because it wasn't the crucible. As far as I know, this doesn't. This actually does require thorium. So yeah, I should have done the math there. I also still haven't found any thorium, so I am going to just explore the map now with my radar, because otherwise I have no idea where to get it from. Let's see, these are honestly not too threatening units, just some tier 1 units. So if I could have actually built my afflicts, which wouldn't have been a problem if I had enough oxide, because remember, neither the carbide nor the thorium was a problem there. It was just a matter of me not having built this at the beginning of the level. Yeah, we should have easily been able to fend that off. As it stands, I think I should be able to still take all of that out. I'll just need to actually repair some of these buildings, but nothing too major in terms of that which has happened. Well, after some exploring, I have good news and I have bad news. The good news is I found thorium. The bad news is it's all the way over here, which is quite far away from my base actually, and it is also beyond the choke point that I had in mind to use to defend my base. It's also really close to the second spawning point, which is probably intentional because the first wave just came from down south. I'm guessing the second wave will either come from both directions, but at least from the second location as well, which means that I'm now going to set up a facility in probably the worst place on the map in terms of how easy it is to defend compared to where everything else I'm building is. But yeah, anyway, I'm still here, so I'm just gonna go for it. So I had another panic moment over here, because I just realized that I can't actually mine this thorium, because in order to do that, I need an eruption drill, and in order to build an eruption drill, I need thorium, which I already spent on other stuff. But as you can see, I now have thorium again, because luckily there was some in the walls over here, which just need a large plasma board to get it out. So I now have a pretty decent amount of thorium actually coming in. And once again, had I done some exploring earlier on, I would have built this much earlier. Because all it needs is some beryllium, some basic resources, a couple of these miners, and you're good to go. But that means that now I have some thorium. I can actually finish my ship assembler. I also still have the slag coming in. I already built two more. So there's one over here, there's one over here. I am going to, well, actually power this because right now it's not doing anything. I'm going to build a second one over here as well. I should probably build a regen generator there as well, a regen projector I think it's called. And in the meanwhile, that means I should hopefully have about 2 of these tier 4 flying units when the next wave comes in, along with some afflicts. I'm a little worried about this production facility, but honestly, rebuilding this just takes a moment and a little bit of resources that I have plenty of, and in the meanwhile, the thorium will be flowing in. So, let's see if we can survive the second wave as well. Okay, so the second wave is about to come in. I have 2 afflicts down here with a little bit of wall protection, nothing too special, but we have the crawlers coming in here anyway, so I don't think the walls are going to do much other than catch some stray bullets, like I've said in the comments to some of you in the previous episode. I do have a regen projector here as well, so all of this should be fairly stable. I have a similar setup over here to protect my thorium, and also I'm not entirely sure if the enemy is going to come from this direction, both. I guess we're going to find out one way or another. I do have another afflict over here, so all in all I have my bases decently covered. I hope. Again, I'm not entirely sure where the waves are going to come from. If you're wondering, how many of those tier 4 units did you build so far, TDA? Well, the answer is exactly 0. The first one is about to pop out, I guess? Yeah, so it should be here in time. But I had several issues with my supply line for my cyanogen. I completely forgot to hook up the arcicide. Actually, right now it's still not working optimally because I am not supplying enough slag. But I'm pretty much in panic mode, trying to fix too many things at the same time. And that is never a good thing. On the other hand, this level is definitely providing more of a challenge than the previous level did, so it's not all bad. Well, my prediction of air units was correct. I'm not sure if all 9 of the enemies are actual air units, but yeah. Well, at least we have some air defense as well, some mobile air defense, I should say. So this afflict should hopefully be able to take it out with a little bit of help from this tier 4 unit. As you can see, the tier 4 units are really strong. So yeah, there we go. That was not another wave taken out, actually. There are still 5 units on the map. I wonder what those are. Oh, yikes. It's actually some pretty advanced units coming from the all the way down south. Now, I do think that these 2 afflicts should be able to take those out quite easily, but wasn't expecting that, honestly. In the meanwhile, I need more power if I'm going to do anything else, so I'm setting up yet another batch of these generators to fix that. And while I'm at it, I'm actually going to set up some of these unit repair towers so I can start repairing those very valuable units I have flying over here. Why is this not working? Oh, okay. Yeah, power is a thing apparently. Okay, there we go. So the third wave is about to come in, and I didn't really expand my base all that much in terms of production in the meanwhile, but I did do quite a few other things. So, as you can see, I now have 3 afflicts with a proper wall over here. There are some regen towers that are actually overlapping, so the idea is that nothing gets destroyed here, or at the very least will be very hard to destroy it. I built a little bit of a gauntlet here for the normal tanks to get through, so they need to pass along the way before they can do any damage. And in the meanwhile, I have 3 afflicts powering up to 120% shooting at them, so ideally that should take care of most of the enemies coming in. So far, I haven't really seen any waves in any of the levels that were able to withstand the power of 3 afflicts, or even 2, to be honest. So, I also made sure I have some proper air defense. So I have 2 dispersers over here along with some additional towers that should all be in range of covering whatever air units come through here. As you can see, I also have my own little air force with 6 of these tier 4 flying units. So that's actually quite a bit of firepower by itself. And then on the right hand side, this is probably my weak spot at the moment. I have another little gauntlet, although I expect that there will be crawlers coming through here, because I also did some exploring. And if you look at where the enemy is coming from, this is one of the spawn locations over here. There's no way there's any units coming through here unless there are either the hovering ones, which do no damage whatsoever, or it's crawlers, and the crawlers should go through here if they want to reach my base. So yeah, this is not really a gauntlet because they can just move over here, but there are 4 afflicts in the way shooting at them in the meanwhile, all again protected by regen projectors. So I'm hoping, and of course I can always bring in my air units to support as well, that should be enough to keep everything safe. Honestly, compared to previous levels, this is quite a bit of defense, but I don't have a lot of units, so that's something to keep in mind. Speaking of units, while I was exploring the map, there's a lot of stuff on the map, but yeah, nothing really I want to grab because, well, it would be quite in danger of being attacked. However, there is another place where I can put down a bastion, so grabbing this would allow me to double the size of my army. However, I also feel like that might get attacked. So, whether or not I want to do that, I'm not entirely sure, because honestly, just filling the map in towers is probably not the worst way to defeat all those waves. But I do want to make sure I have more of a mobile army than I currently have, so I do want to focus on some more unit production next. Speaking of units, if we look at the tier 5 units that I now have available to me, these are extremely powerful. They have special abilities. All in all, having a couple of these would be a massive upgrade to my army. I actually think a tier 5 unit can probably handle small armies just by itself. They are, however, extremely expensive to build. Now, I have resources, so that's not really the problem. The main problem I see with these is that they take 3 minutes to build a single unit. Now again, a single unit is extremely powerful, but that seems like a lot of time to invest in a level that is all about timed waves. On the other hand, what I could also be doing in that same time is build an entire army of all the lower level units. I think you could probably go either way, but I need to think about this for a moment. How about this? I made an entire new setup over here to produce the exact same unit I am already producing, namely the tier 4 air unit, but this time around it is in this zone of the base that cannot be reached or left by any ground unit, so producing the air units all the way here in the back makes sense because, well, you can just fly them around, and that actually allows me to repurpose this facility over here to making, for example, the tier 4 crawlers. I do need, of course, to actually transport some materials over here, but that's where these cargo drones will be coming in. I pretty much only need the graphite and the silicon to be transported here, because I have everything else here. We need cyanogen, which I can just generate over here. It's going to be a little bit more power consuming, but all in all, that is not an issue. And I have beryllium over here, good to go already. I am also going to set up a couple of these cargo stations like this, so I can easily get things around. They fit nicely in between all the production lines I already have. This is going to turn into one big spaghetti, but that's just what this level is all about. Since I do most of my recording on pause because of all the time limits in this game, it's worth noting that a large part of the challenge actually comes from the fact that you need to kind of keep building while you're also defending, especially in these waves kind of levels. Because as you can see, the next wave is coming in 7.5 minutes, but the first wave that I am waiting for, well, the third wave, I should say, is only now arriving. So it takes about a minute or so for the actual enemy to reach you. This doesn't look all that threatening with 4 Afflicts to rain hell down on them. Oh, okay. I definitely need to finish this wall. I already expected this might happen. But yeah, these guys are kind of coming in through the back door now. I do hope that... I'm actually wondering why they're coming from this direction. I mean, they spawn here. At least that is what I've been told. And this doesn't seem like the most logical way to approach my base. Although, maybe it's just because these buildings over here are closer to reach from here. Is that it? Doesn't look like it would be the case. But yeah, anyway. I'm going to have to defend myself on multiple fronts. Now, there's nothing... well, other than the base, potentially. I was about to say there's nothing here that I actually want, but there is this base over here that I kind of want to take care of. But yeah, we might need to have a third line of defense over here. Even though this particular wave was kind of large in terms of numbers, it was a lot less threatening actually than the last few waves, because it were only lower tier units. Right, so this should be a lot better. I find that the AI always wants to take the same route, but it also prefers a unobstructed route above something that is blocked off. So this is now completely blocked off. I mean, crawlers can get through, but the smaller units that can't fly or crawl over cannot get through, so they should be preferring this route now, because this has open space and they could, in theory, directly run through my base. Of course, they're going to be completely obliterated when they try that. But yeah, we should no longer have people coming in through the back door, basically. My tier 4 unit production is also up and running in the area to the north, so that means that now I can start replacing this facility with one that produces something else. Okay, there we go, and now I also have the tier 4 crawlers in production while I'm still producing the tier 4 flying units. Well, you know, as soon as I remembered at least that these don't require the beryllium walls but the tungsten walls. But anyway, these are now actually in production, so we should have our first creepy crawler coming up. It's not going to be there for wave number 4, but what is going to be there for wave number 4 are a boatload of afflicts. I will be able to finish this one before the wave arrives. I also added some more of those to this side of the map. This is way more afflicts than I've ever had on defense. This side is not really that well defended, but I'm not expecting anyone to come through here anymore now I blocked it off. That's actually going to be the case, I don't know, but that feels a little bit weird that I now have what I think is the best defense I've ever built, and we still have 6 waves to go, so I am a little bit worried about what is still to come. Well, for one, we're getting a Guardian wave in a little while, but for now it's still 31 enemies, and we are getting another wave in 8 minutes after that. Well, we do have quite a bit of air units coming in, but they... Well, I wanted to show it to you, but they died before they got anywhere close to my base, and the same actually holds for the units that came down here. Now, there's still some more units remaining, and they do seem to go through this side, and they do not care about the fact that these walls are closed. Can I just run over them? No, they can't. They actually get stuck behind it, although they do a fairly good job at actually killing my walls. But luckily, I think these tier 4 units should be able to take them out pretty easily. But that does mean that my tactic about blocking this side is not really working like intended, so we're going to have to do something about that. So how about this? Rather than trying to block off this area over here or trying to defend this base over here, I just made a bottleneck here. Now, this is, again, a highly defended location. As you can see, I do need to add the pipeline here. There are 1, 2, 3, 4 afflicts over here, a completely wall of area with 3 walls. Some of you recommended that I should be building my walls of 3 thick, so there you go, I do listen. And just because I could, why not just add some titans to it, because I do have thorium over here, and that is what these titans need. These are only going to fire at ground units, but that's pretty much everything that will be coming through here, because all the flying units seem to be going straight from here to my main base. I've also got some of those tier 4 crawlers up and running, and holy moly, these things are ginormous. I'm not entirely sure what this is supposed to be. They kind of have, like, I don't know, antlers or something like that? I don't know. But yeah, these things are huge. And since I'm now capped out on flying units, I want to start building a citadel over here that should give me a nice little boost to my maximum army size, and honestly, I'm kind of running out of other things to do at this point. Okay, well, let's see if this all works like intended. There are just a couple of units coming through here, though. That's not going to be a problem. Oh man, they didn't even get to shoot at the wall, I think. There's still some more units to go, 31 more enemies, so let's find out what those are. Hey, look, they have some creepy crawlies of their own. However, yeah, these are not going to make it against my afflicts. They did destroy a little piece of wall, though, so I need to repair that, but yeah, I just wonder where the other 28 units are. Oh, wait, hold on. Look, they are getting massacred over here. Apparently some of the units go through this route, and then some of the units go through that route, which is a little bit surprising, honestly. And they also sent some flying units in this direction. Interesting. Again, everything is completely getting destroyed by my defenses, and I have plenty of materials to add to that. But, yeah, so far, so good. Oh, wait, I think I just realized what is happening. So the creepy crawlies are coming from this direction all the way through here, I think. It's probably just a little bit shorter than going the other way around, so that makes sense in that way. And then the other group of units is coming from down here, goes all the way around here, so they come from this direction. So that does mean that everything I built in terms of defense should probably be in this general area anyway. because then I can catch them from this direction and this direction and use my turrets for both directions at the same time. Anyway, I am happy to report I now have a citadel up and running, so I should be able to produce some more units. Now let's see how our units are actually doing. Look, there's more and more of them showing up. I'm not actually using them for my defense yet, but I can now build 30 of them. So yeah, you know, that's a thing. So anyway, I built some more towers, specifically Afflicts, because I really like these towers, just because they solely rely on energy, at least if you don't power them with slag, which is even more efficient. And considering I have this nice little lake over here, that's exactly what I'm doing. So I actually now have 2 lines of defense for my main base on the left side, which seems to be where most of the enemies are coming from. That is not even counting the ever-increasing amount of tier 4 mechs that is over here. How many of those do I have now? It's 8 of them, and I have 18 tier 4 flying units as well. I haven't really been using any of my units to defend at this point whatsoever, but yeah, you know, I can use them if I need to. I'm probably going to finish this wall for now because it's a little bit undefended if there's more of those crawlers coming from this direction. But let's find out how the 110 enemies are going to deal with these defenses. Well, a lot of them are just going to die instantly when they get over here, because theirs are just, well, just tier 1 units mostly. There's some tier 2 and 3 in here as well, I believe. But yeah, there's not really much you can do against this massive amount of firepower. There's some air units trying to sneak past there. Hold on. And speaking of air units, there's also a whole bunch of them coming at my Afflicts over here. But yeah, remember I did build some of these region projectors, so even though I am taking some damage, it seems that my defenses are holding up just fine. Now, how are we doing over here? Yep, there are some buildings being destroyed by these air units, but nothing I can't easily rebuild. Oh look, there's more. There's more. 16, 17 units remaining. Yeah, not really anything dangerous. At this point, I'm just trying to have some fun with the enemy, so I'm going to make a little bit of a obstacle course for them over here to get through. That is probably going to get destroyed, but I can easily rebuild it. It's just beryllium after all. I also added in a luster over here that is being fueled by a semi-optimized atmospheric concentrator making some nitrogen. It's not working at full speed. It doesn't need to, because half of the time it will be doing nothing, and I am storing up some liquid in this tank over here. So whenever we actually have the enemy getting close by, then it will start firing. It should have more than enough nitrogen to function off that. Yeah, at this point I have 11 of those large creepers as well. I repositioned my air force to the place that I just struggled a little bit because the enemy was sneaking through. Now that does put me at somewhat of a risk in case the flying units decide for whatever reason to go back on their original route, because I didn't really add any more defenses than I already had. So I might just opt to either just keep the new air units that I'm producing here. That might actually be what I'm going to do. But I also might want to move at least a couple of these units, let's say like 5 or so. Let's move those back, just in case the enemy decides to come through here. I don't know with how many units they're going to do that, but I have a feeling I should be just fine, even if I don't build anything new to complete this level at this point. But yeah, I might as well spend the resources that I'm now making. Okay, we're actually almost one more wave ahead, because I got a wave and I barely noticed. That's not really surprising considering how many turrets I have here. This is the initial line of defense that I set up. But now we have another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, I believe, Afflicts, but also 3 Titans over here, along with a gazillion of these Tactas. There's 18 of them. So yeah, nothing is going to get through here. That would very much surprise me, because that would mean that wave is a lot stronger than the previous waves. I have a little bit of backup over here in case I need it, but then again, the other units are not that far away in case I need to defend here. I don't think these turrets have done anything past wave 3 or so. I'm not entirely sure why, but the air units seem to be taking a different route now. I have a backup Afflict here in the back. I added some more Afflicts over here. Why? Because Afflicts are awesome, but honestly, these haven't been doing exactly nothing. This territory over here, I added in some more defense as well. I have a repair tower over here that is actually not working. Why is it not working? Because I am trying to get the... Actually wondering what this will give me. Ozone. Well, that's what I wanted. That's good. And now it's no longer ozone. And if I put this... That's really annoying to get the correct thing out of these electrolyzers if you put them like this, but that's my own mistake. Anyway, it's not really that big of a problem because nothing really gets through all of these towers. As you can see, I have 5 Afflicts and 2 Titans over here. We do have a Guardian coming in pretty soon. Let's see if this wave is actually going to be able to achieve anything. 77 units. So, you know, that's quite a lot. They're also melting away in front of my Titans and Afflicts. I really love these things because they do a lot of damage, but they also kind of nicely spread it around. You do see a couple of blasts going through. They actually destroyed a few buildings over here. I might need to go and repair those. But, yeah, all in all. The only reason I'm actually getting hit here is because the shots are going over this mountain, but they can't actually go through a wall. So if I do something like this, that should actually protect these buildings in the future from being attacked. Now, there are 22 more units. I'm guessing, yeah, they're going to come from over here. And as you can see, these are relatively low-level units. There are some higher-level units in here. Oh, look, this is actually a tier 5 unit, I believe. But, yeah, it's still melting away. I didn't even lose any of these tiny little walls over here either. I think we're pretty much good to go for the last wave as well. I'm just going to finish building this wall, and then we're going to press that button. Okay, 117 enemies incoming and a Guardian. Well, a lot of those units were apparently the lower level units that are melting away, so those don't really count. Those are not going to do anything to my base, even though there are some tier 4 and maybe tier 5. I think these are still tier 4-ish. Well, anyway, they are pretty much dead. Let's check what's going on over here. I'm actually too slow. Everything already died. It is quite entertaining. I actually don't know where the enemy Guardian is going to come from. Is this it? I am not sure. I am bringing in my air units now because if anyone was going to attack me over here, they would have already done so. So I'm just going to see if I can find that Guardian, question mark. Is it already dead? The health bar disappeared. I guess so. It was in here somewhere. Apologies that I didn't notice it, but we have 1 unit remaining. And there we go, sector captured. Now, I have to admit, the initial stages of this level were quite intense, especially because I didn't do any exploring. I wasn't really sure what I was getting in what order, and I was making a few mistakes along the way, which definitely did not help, running out of carbide and things like that. But yeah, once you have your initial defense established, that's about it. The game is no longer any difficult, and honestly I was expecting a little bit more. Maybe it would have been fun if the actual angle at which the enemy attacks you changes every now and then. Maybe not every wave, but like you see a new landing zone popping up like after 3 waves and you kind of need to adapt to that, or something along those lines. I'm not entirely sure what, but this was a little bit too easy after the initial start. I think the last like 6 waves or so didn't really add anything compared to the first 3 or 4. Anyway, I don't want to complain too much. I was just hoping for a bit more of a challenge, but I think the next level is going to give me exactly that. So, sorry for all the rambling. If you're still here, you are awesome, and I definitely hope to catch you in the next one.